Chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Deutsch, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there was an interesting article in this morning's Wall Street Journal entitled "Publishing Executives Argue Facebook is Overly Deferential to Conservatives." Ms. Bickert, I just wanted to follow up on what you had talked about earlier, in particular the review that's being led by former Senator John Kyle, along with the Heritage Foundation, about what many articles recently pointed out as unsubstantiated claims of anti-conservative bias. But the question is, you put this together, they're conducting this review. After the review started, my understanding is that the RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, and Brad Parscale, the campaign manager for the president's reelection campaign, then doubled down on the narrative, complained of suppression of conservative speech, and rather than pointing to this review that's taking place, instead there were meetings immediately scheduled between the head of the RNC, the president's reelection campaign, and high-ranking officials at Facebook. Is that right?
I'm afraid I don't know about that. I could have our team follow up.
If you could just follow up on that and get back to us, we would appreciate it. I represent Parkland, Florida, and in this discussion of social media, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the savage attacks on the student survivors of Stoneman Douglas. One of the most virulent strains of these attacks was that the students didn't survive a school shooting, that they were crisis actors, that they were planted by some mysterious cabal to finally get Congress to do something about gun violence. And in the weeks after the shooting, Alex Jones's YouTube channel posted a video that was seen by 2.3 million subscribers, alleging that these were merely that these were actors and not real students who had experienced the most horrific thing anyone could possibly imagine. The video violated YouTube's rules against bullying, and it was removed. An article posted to Slate.com describes this as a strike against the channel. Ms. Downs, how many strikes does a channel get?
Typically, a channel gets 3 strikes, and then we terminate the channel.
So the reason I ask is Alex Jones obviously is a well-known conspiracy theorist whose brand is bullying. He launched similar attacks against the families whose 6- and 7-year-old kids were slaughtered at Sandy Hook. And he's not the only one. Truthers have spread these lies, claiming that Sandy Hook never happened at all. And the Slate article references a study by Jonathan Albright, director of the Tao Center for Digital Journalism at Columbia, who found 9,000 videos on YouTube with titles that are, and I quote, a mixture of shocking, vile, and promotional themes that include rape game jokes, shock reality, social experiments, celebrity pedophilia, false flag rants, and terror-related conspiracy theories dating back to the Oklahoma City attacks in 1995. Ms. Downs, does Google think that this is a problem, and what is the solution that you're coming up with to address it?
Thank you for the question. So as you noted, when Alex Jones posted the video you described saying that the survivors of the Parkland massacre were crisis actors, that violated our harassment policy. We have a specific policy that says if you say a well-documented violent attack didn't happen, and you use the name or image of survivors or victims of that attack, that is a malicious attack and it violates our policy. In terms of conspiracy theory content generally, our goal is to promote authoritative content to our users. So we have 2 principles that guide the way here. That's the first one, is we want to provide users with authoritative, trustworthy information.
Ms. Downs, I'm sorry to cut you off. I only have a minute and a half, and I don't really need to hear what you're trying to provide. I want to know how you're dealing with all these conspiracy theorists on your platform.
So the first way is by demoting low-quality content and promoting more authoritative content, and the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the Earth is not flat.
Correct.
Okay. I have a question, Ms. Bickert, for you. You recently decided not to ban InfoWars. Can you explain that decision? And do you use a strikes model like YouTube?
Congressman, we do use a strikes model. What that means is if a page or a profile or a group is posting content and some of that violates our policies, we always remove the violating posts at a certain point, and it depends on the nature of the content that is violating our policies. At a certain point, we would also remove the page or the profile or the group at issue.
Right. So the question is, how many strikes does a conspiracy theorist who attacks grieving parents and student survivors of mass shootings get? How many strikes are they entitled to before they can no longer post those kinds of horrific attacks?
I want to be very clear that allegations that survivors of a tragedy like Parkland are crisis actors, that violates our policy, and we removed that content. And we would continue to remove any violations from the InfoWars page. If they posted sufficient content that it violated our threshold, the page would come down. That threshold varies depending on the severity of different types of violations.
Thank you. I yield back.
Is when you talking to the principalities and reminding the powers and telling them who you are and what's going to happen. That's when you get an attitude. We have access to God with boldness and confidence. We can go boldly to the throne of God. We can go confidently to him. But what does the devil do? He keeps bringing up your past. He keeps bringing up your failures. He keeps bringing up your shortcomings. I'm not going to God on the basis of my righteousness, not my righteousness. I'm going on the basis of his righteousness and who he is.